Colliers Wood is, as Northern Line stations go, a bit of an also-ran. By which I mean, when you look at any history of the Underground, it tends to barely merit a mention. It never appears on those lists of amazing facts about the Tube. Heck, a lot of the time people don't even know where it is. So, today I thought I might try to remedy that with a video dedicated to this very ordinary station. Colliers Wood was opened in 1926, but there was a railway running through here long before the Underground arrived. Over 100 years before, in fact. The Surrey Iron Railway ran from Croydon, roughly where Central is now, to the Thames at Wandsworth. It broadly followed the course of the River Wandle, serving the industries that were powered by the fast-flowing water. The line passed right through the site of Colliers Wood Station. The railway closed in 1846, but part of its route is now used by the trams. Colliers Wood wasn't really a place until the Underground came along. This area was mostly rural in the early 20th century. A collier is a word for a charcoal burner, and it's assumed that there was a wood around here that was used by them for fuel. The area's biggest claim to fame was Merton Priory, which had been an important ecclesiastical site from the early 12th century to its destruction in 1538. What put the place on the map, literally and figuratively, was the City and South London Railway. This was a deep-level tube line, part of the Northern Line. It had been bought out by Underground Electric Railways of London in 1913. Who had combined it with another of their lines, the Charing Cross, Euston and Hampstead Railway. This combination meant that they had two connected lines across central London, which in turn gave them lots of capacity to run more trains. So, being an expansionist company, they looked to extend into the suburbs. The City and South London ran as far as Clapham Common, but in 1923 they obtained permission to extend south. They originally planned to go all the way to Sutton, but they'd struck a deal with the Southern Railway to stop at Morden. It took them just 3 years to build the extension. Now, the pub opposite the station is named after Charles Holden, the architect responsible for overseeing the stations on the extension. In fact, the extension was his first major project for the Underground. But this station was not, in fact, designed by him. He consulted on it, but the actual nitty-gritty design work was by Stanley Heaps. That being said, the station does follow the design principles set out by Charles Holden. These stations followed a particular style, but were tailored to fit their sites. The typical style elements you see here are a Portland stone frontage with a large window to let natural light in. At night, the outside of the station is lit in yellow to give a warm, friendly feel. There are shops either side of the booking hall, which both brought money in for the Underground and encouraged the development of a suburb around the station. Inside, it also uses the same design cues as elsewhere on the extension. The platform is reached via escalators, which feature uplighters. The ticket hall is lit by an electric chandelier, or, as the design team preferred, an electrolier. The tiles are designed by Harold Stabler in a style sometimes known as jazz. Simple, but modern for the time. The platform roundels are installed at 2 levels, one height for passengers sitting down and one for passengers standing up. Although it should be noted that even at rush hour the trains this far south are rarely crowded enough to leave a substantial number of standing passengers on the train. The station opened on the 13th of September 1926, and housing quickly grew around it. Up until then, the nearest railway station was Merton Abbey, which had never been especially popular or convenient. The tube station was on the main road and offered a fast, frequent and modern service into central London. In fact, just 3 years after the tube station opened, the Southern Railway gave up and closed Merton Abbey in 1929. In 1963, Colliers Wood was, indirectly, involved in a sinister government experiment. Scientists from Porton Down, Britain's chemical and biological warfare research lab, released a sample of bacteria from a tube train between Tooting Broadway and Colliers Wood. The bacteria was Bacillus atrophius, which is considered to be mostly harmless, although not zero risk. At least one rather hysterical newspaper report has stated that it was anthrax, which is nonsense. Anthrax is an extremely harmful and difficult to eradicate pathogen that you really don't want to be mucking around with. It's not clear exactly why the government were letting off germs on the underground, but reports, more reliable ones than the anthrax one, state that it was to test how bacteria could spread in the event of a more serious attack. The whole thing sounds ethically dubious. In 1966, the Lion Tower was built outside the station. This was a huge and hideous office block that was never popular, either as an office block or with locals. Unfortunately, the fact that it sits over the tube line means that it's expensive to demolish. So instead it was rebuilt and reclad. It's still not popular, and last year a window fell out. In 2021, permission was applied for to build more towers, because it worked so well last time. Colliers Wood Station is now Grade 2 listed. It continues much as it always has. It's not a particularly special station, but you know what? It's all right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this towering tale from the tube. If you did, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. I would like to thank my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon for your always generous support. You are the extra capacity to my Northern Line. And I will see you all again very soon for another tale from the tube.